Welcome to Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and again on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on KATX and KWBY as Angela Robinson joins Stace Gaddy to share important financial information to help you live life on purpose, insurance, investments, estate and tax planning, and much more. All covered now on Life Planning 101.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome into our program, Life Planning 101. It is a pleasure to be with you this morning. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm your host, Stace Gaddy. Our expert, as always, Angela Robinson from Kennedy Financial Services here in Eastland. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, Stace. Great morning. Really excited to talk about a very sensitive, highly sensitive subject this morning. In fact, some of our listeners may hear the title of it and say, oh, I don't even know if I want to listen this morning. That's not for me. But what I'm going to say is that I would encourage you just to listen, to hear me out. I heard that on WBAP this morning. Just hear me out. And I know we don't ever hear them out. But in this case, it really is for your own benefit. It's not for mine whatsoever. But I do want to point out we've got a couple giveaways today. So make sure you're listening closely because we've got a trivia giveaway. And Comet Cleaners here in town has actually offered up 3 pairs of pants, either dry cleaned or starch, for our trivia today. So listen in good. And then, of course, we're going to have our potentially save your bacon tip of the week thrown in. And then the best question that we get thrown to us will receive 2 free movie tickets. So remember our email address, lifeplanning@kennedy-financial.com. That's lifeplanning@kennedy-financial.com, because you don't want to be able to miss to take advantage of those wonderful little giveaways that we've got. But let's go straight into our segment here. And I want to ask a question, and most people are going to think, oh my gosh, here we go. But does long-term care insurance make sense? And I know that is a heavy, heavy question, because for a lot of us, it brings up a lot of unpleasant feelings. And our first gut reaction is, of course not, that's not going to happen to me. And it may even evoke some strong emotions, because more and more of us are being thrown into an environment where we've seen a loved one actually go through this situation. And we definitely don't want to think about that happening to us. And, I think, a lot of people think, well, there's, only a certain number of years that it might be able to pay, and it won't really protect my family, or, how is that really going to protect me against that cost of healthcare rising? Or some people say, well, if I never use it, I'm going to lose it. And all of those things can be true. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about why you need a long-term care plan. Doesn't necessarily have to be insurance, but why you need a long-term care plan, what is actually happening out there. I'm going to share a story with you today, something that we have experienced, and I tell you what, it's one of the things that kept me up awake at night, just so concerned for this lady and what had happened in her situation, and you don't want to miss hearing that story. And then at the end of the show, I'm actually going to give you some ideas for planning for this type of instance in the event that you're not buying long-term care insurance. So you don't want to miss any of the show today. It's going to be a really good show. So why buy it? Okay, why not self-insure? That's I think the biggest thing that people ask. In fact, I had a lady in the office a couple weeks ago, a client. She said, the reason I haven't bought it is because I sat there and I watched a policy not work for the situation, and she had a trash policy. It really wasn't a good policy on her mom, and it didn't pay very much. And that's very true. Unfortunately, there is a lot of crooks and people that shouldn't be selling insurance that are. So, there are some bad products out there that have happened. And I think that brings, a point in everybody's mind of, gosh, that just adds to the stress. But so why don't I just self-insure? What's the big deal about this? Okay, well, I want to give you just some numbers here. Currently, the lowest private room rate in the nation is $165 a day. That's if you were to go into a nursing home. That's not home health care, which is more. $165 a day. And that's if you're willing to live in Oklahoma. I'm not. So I don't care if I have Alzheimer's. No one's moving me to Oklahoma. So, that's if you're willing to live there.
Oklahomans, do not send the letters to me.
That's right. But, I want you just to imagine on the low end there, okay? Just imagine paying an extra $60,225 every year out of your financial situation. Extra. And the reason I say that is if you're married, the spouse has to continue to have their regular expenses. So some things are not going to change, right? So my question to everybody is, okay, what is going to be the first thing that you're going to use? What is it? Is it CDs that you have? Is it cash that you have lying around to be able to fund that? And by the way, most people's stay is over 3 years at this point. So you can just times that by 3. So where's the first $180,000 going to be able to come from? That's pretty big. And I will say on the high end here, just because I wanted to throw this out because it blew my mind. Now, doesn't surprise me. It's Alaska. Who gives health care in Alaska? Hardly anybody lives up there. But they are at $771 per day. That's $281,000 a year. So There's your low end and your high end. And what we see around here, what we have noticed is the cost of care is somewhere in the neighborhood of $200 a day. And that's home health care or living in a facility. So that's really big. And so a common thing is how much is it going to take to self-insure? So we're going to answer that question when we come back.
Very good. Our topic, folks, if you've just joined us, does long-term care insurance make sense? We're going to find out more when we come back right here on Life Planning 101. Welcome back, everyone. Life Planning 101 is the program. I'm your host, Stace Gaddy. Our expert, Angela Robinson, talking about does long-term care insurance make sense? That's our topic today. Good morning again, Angela.
Good morning. And it is a big question. And, a lot of people absolutely are just against it. And I'll let you know the severity of this. When we have a client that doesn't want to get long-term care insurance, we make them sign a letter saying that they did not want to get long-term care insurance. And we are discussing making them get their children to sign that letter because we have seen in our industry several lawsuits, especially from children, of why didn't you tell my mom and dad about this? You were their advisor. This was supposed to happen. You were supposed to let them know the risk. That's how prevalent this is becoming. So, I think the big question is should I have some type of insurance, or what is going to be my long-term care plan, which we are going to talk about options at the end of the show today, because you do have other options besides just the traditional long-term care insurance. Or can I self-insure? And before we left the show, the last part of the show, we talked about the cost of self-insurance and how much is that? Well, a lot of advisors, will agree with you. I mean, most advisors agree with you on the fact that you have to have some type of long-term care plan in place. And most of them are going to agree that you're going to need about $5 million in assets to afford the risk of self-insurance.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is a surprising thing. Just because you have $5 million as a net worth doesn't mean you can actually afford it, believe it or not.
That doesn't mean $5 million cash.
Yeah, that's right. So, if you got a ranch, what's going to happen? And a lot of us are farmers and ranchers around this area. So, what's going to be the first thing that your family has to liquidate to be able to pay for your care? And you may say, well, the government will take care of me. Well, that's an interesting perspective. And the reason why I say that is virtually you have to be broke for the government to take care of you. You have to spend down all of your assets, and your spouse is left with hardly nothing to live on, income-wise or asset-wise. And then the second thing with that is you don't even know what type of facility you're going to end up in. Now, for some of us, that doesn't matter. If I'm out of my mind, I really don't care. But I think it's important for people to know, and this happened to another advisor I was speaking with. Her mom did not have care, and they had to put her on Medicaid. And she was in a nursing home with 4 other women in her room. They all shared one bathroom, and they were in her room, and there was only one nurse for 19 patients. That's not much of a quality of care.
No, that doesn't even sound like America.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, that's where Medicaid can end up because they get to choose what facility. So some people say, well, I just want to be able to have that better quality of life, so I want to have something in place. But what I want to do is I want to tell you a story. And I mean, this is probably the most gut-wrenching thing we've experienced. We actually started working with a couple right before they retired. And they had been to a seminar, some insurance guy, a few years before that. And they said, you don't really need to get long-term care insurance until you retire. Well, the year before he retired, he developed Alzheimer's. So no long-term care insurance. They had spent their whole life, and both of them were very successful teachers at a college, at a university. So they'd spent their whole life accumulating money, doing everything by the book, saving money like they should have been saving. They had a wonderful retirement nest egg, and they were planning to travel. They were very strong in their faith, so they were going to do a lot of mission work. They wanted to go around the world and do a lot of traveling, and so they had all these great plans laid out, right? And he developed Alzheimer's. Well, she couldn't put him into a facility, right? Even though she was still working, she had to keep him at home with her as long as she could. Well, it put a very big stress on her health. Over a year, we saw her gain about 75 pounds, and she was having all kinds of problems herself, health-wise. Her husband had become uncontrollable at home, and she completely devastated, didn't know what to do. She had to put him into a facility. She had no choice. Well, the unfortunate thing was he lived 5 years. Now, that doesn't sound like it should be unfortunate, right? But when you're talking about the cost of care, the cost of being able to keep up with his medications, and for her to keep her home and keep any kind of lifestyle and try to keep a job during all that because she knew where all this was heading, it was extremely, extremely difficult. They saw their nest egg be cut in over half. And by the way, this was all during 2008 and 2009. Yes. So I want to ask you again, what's going to be the first thing that you're going to use if you were to need care? And what breaks my heart more about the situation is here's a lady that today, she still comes in today. And my heart just wrenches because she can't understand. She is so emotionally wrapped up in this. I should be able to live this way. We worked our whole life to be able to live this way. I don't understand why I have to be on this stinking budget. I don't understand this. This makes no sense. Why can't I have the house that I want? Why can't I travel the way that I want? And she's angry. She needs lots of prayers. It's all about being able to have choices, right, in life. And, there's an old saying there's an old parable about, God sending people a raft and they don't take it. And then he sends them a boat and they don't take it.
Right.
And they say, no, God will save me. God will save me. And then at the end, they ask God, well, why didn't you save me? He said, well, you never took anything that I asked you to take.
I sent you a raft, a rescuer, a helicopter.
That's right. That's exactly right. And how many times in life do we get that chance? We get the chance to plan for something, but we don't do it. That's really, really important. So what we're going to do when we come back in the next segment is we're actually going to talk about some alternative ways to be able to fund long-term care. I know insurance is a really ugly picture for that. So we're going to talk about some alternative ways because I think you're going to find these extremely intriguing. So you don't want to miss it.
You're listening to Life Planning 101 on KATX Radio and KWBY Radio. Keep it right here. Thanks for listening, folks, and keeping it right here. Life Planning 101 continues now. I'm Stace Gaddy. Here is Angela Robinson.
Thank you, Stace. And we've been talking about a very emotional topic today.
It's a tough topic, but it's real life, you know? It
is. And I know it's not everybody's favorite thing to hear about. In fact, I'm very much a positive person, and there's a lot of negativity in today's talk. But like you say, it's reality. And I think sometimes we have to be brought back to reality. I actually visited Honduras a couple weeks ago, and it did nothing for me but bring me back to reality about, what we should really appreciate as Americans. And that was huge, for me. I needed it. And I think we all need it sometimes. And so today is a reality check for you and your future and taking care of your family. What's interesting is we meet with a lot of people. And we ask one question always when we first sit down with them is, what is the most important thing to you? And I will say this, if they're married, 99.99999% of the time, they say this person right here, and they're pointing to their spouse. I want them taken care of if something happens to me. Yet we don't do it because we don't plan for health situations that may occur down the road. We say, okay, well, you could just take me out back and shoot me with a gun. That's a common thing I hear here in Texas, of course, or Montana if we're working with clients up there. But that's not reality, right? I mean, in reality, your spouse is going to want to take care of you. And oftentimes it's the caregiver that actually goes before the person that's sick because of the stress level of caregiving.
It's true.
And if they're not up to par health-wise, capitalized to be able to take care of you, it makes it even that much worse. So, there is a big element here. So, as I promised, I'm going to tell you about a couple things that are some alternatives to the traditional use it or lose it long-term care insurance, because the price of it's high, extremely high. In fact, a lot of carriers are out of the business because this is a fairly new insurance. And, the funny thing is that they thought that we were all going to have the same life expectancy. Well, I just read an article this morning in the bottom line, and it was talking about the number of people living to age 100 actually doubled from 1990 to 2000.
Really?
Yeah.
That's fast.
It is. And I can't imagine what it's going to be from 2000 to today.
Yes.
So, I think we have to think about these insurance companies didn't plan on that life expectancy increasing. And then you have the baby boomers as a problem. So they've been increasing premiums like crazy. It's nuts. Double-digit percentage increases on premiums. And the ones that are still in the business, they don't even offer a lifetime benefit anymore on a traditional long-term care plan. You can't get it. You can get a 10-year benefit, but you can't get a lifetime benefit. So there's a lot of things that are crunching down in the industry, and they really don't even have a firm grip on the situation. So I often don't even feel comfortable with the traditional long-term care plan. In fact, I don't think we've actually had any of our clients buy one, and we wouldn't have proposed one to them in the last 5 years. Isn't that crazy?
That is.
It is. So what are we doing? What are we doing to do this? How are we doing this? Because if you need $5 million of really liquid assets to be able to take care of your long-term care situation, how are people being able to fund it? Well, there's a little secret out in the industry, and it's called life insurance. Very interesting. I love the concept of it. And there's a couple different types of policies. You can have it where they're reimbursement. You can have it where they just pay it if you meet 2 of the 6 assisted daily living requirements that you need help with those. There's some that actually provide joint care for both husband and wife, and they actually don't pay a death benefit till both of you are gone. But what I like about life insurance is that it's not a use it or lose it. If you don't use it, your spouse or your family still gets a death benefit. That's pretty powerful. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if you need it, guess what? You got it. Because here's another situation I want you to think about. There's been 2 states that have had lawsuits going after the children to repay the states for the Medicaid paid for their parents for long-term care.
Really?
Yes. That's pretty scary, isn't it?
That's very scary.
Okay.
That's Big Brother.
It is Big Brother. So any of you kids listening on the show that have a baby boomer as a parent or someone older, you may want to be buying something for that parent or someone older. In fact, I'm a big proponent of that. My husband's family, they did not want to buy long-term care insurance. I told my husband, I said, we'll buy. We're going to do it because I don't want to be in a position that, we're going to have to come back and pay for their care. I want to be in a position that we all have flexibility and there's no stress on the family. It's just not worth it. It's too emotional during that time anyway, right? So, the traditional lifetime benefit plans aren't the only way that you can go about these things. And I think that's the most important thing to know. We talked about earlier in the show, we've got some giveaways today, right? So our email address, lifeplanning@kennedy-financial.com. I want you to email us with your questions, because I know after listening to the show, everybody's got questions in their mind about, for their unique situation. And if you don't, I didn't do a good job today, because I want you to have questions about this. It's too important. What's the point of building your retirement and having everything set up for your wife if you're going to spend it all on your own health care and then your wife is left destitute? So, being able to take care of your family is extremely, extremely important. So, email us. We've got a free pair of movie theater tickets for the best question of the week. So it may be hard this week. So I definitely think hard about what that question is. And then, of course, we do have our trivia. Are you ready, Stace? I know you're always listening hard, so you can try to get it.
Hit me.
Okay. So what was the highest daily rate of nursing home care in the United States?
I know this one, and I'm going to give them a hint.
Okay, what is the hint?
It was in Alaska.
That's right. So you can actually go look it up if you wanted to, all right? But email us, lifeplanning@kennedy-financial.com. We've got 3 pairs of pants, dry cleaned or starched from Comet Cleaners here in Eastland. So they were generous enough to be able to do that for the listeners on our show today. And so that will be really good. I want to kind of wrap things up today with a really good question for you. We do an article, or we have an article we did a few years ago, and I always refer to it because it fits in so many aspects of planning. It was called Absolutely Unacceptable Regrets. The things that are unacceptable to have regretted in life, right? So my question for you is, if we were sitting here 10 years out from today, Okay, so that'd be 2025, right? Over those past 5 years, so from 2020 to 2025, you had to have long-term care, some source of it, home health care, went in a nursing home, whatever it was. What would be your absolutely unacceptable regret? Would it be not planning for this enormous financial risk that your family faces? Not addressing what you actually have in front of you today to be able to address? You know, whether it be because of procrastination, whether it be because you don't know, or whether it be because you think that there isn't something out there that fits your situation. I want you to think again, because I want you to think about if that would be an unacceptable regret to leave your family in a bind. And even for single people, you know what's funny is single people actually are more prone to do this, to actually get long-term care insurance than people that are married. Blows my mind.
That's counterintuitive.
It is. But they care about the kids. So maybe it's just something about marriage. I don't know. But anyway,
we're not going there, Angela.
We're not going there. But I'm going to wrap up the show today. I want to thank everybody for listening. Again, my name is Angela Robinson with Kennedy Financial Services here in Eastland, Texas. We do life planning because we want to be able to help people live life on purpose, not by default. And I think that's really what this show is about today, is being able to live life on purpose and have that option.
As always, we thank you for your insight, your understanding, your expertise, and really your passion and your approach for it. That's Angela Robinson. Folks, if you missed any of today's program, don't forget katxradio.com, kwbyradio.com. Just go to the Life Planning 101 page, and you can hear the program in its entirety, as well as an archive of all of the programs that we have done. Don't forget, on Saturdays, 9 a.m., KATX Radio on the air and KWBY Radio on the air if you want to hear a rebroadcast of today's program. Again, thanks to everyone at Kennedy Financial Services. Thanks to you, our faithful listeners. I'm Stace Gaddy. Blessings to you. We will see you next time.
Thank you for joining us for Life Planning 101, brought to you by Kennedy Financial Services of Eastland. Tune in every Monday morning at 8:30 on KATX and again on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock on KATX and KWBY for more Life Planning 101.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through VSR Financial Services Incorporated, a registered investment advisor and member of FINRA SIPC. Kennedy Financial Services is not owned or controlled by VSR Financial Services Incorporated.